The Edmonton Oilers bring it home in a big way. This is Stanley Cupdate for Monday, May 26, 2025. Vic and Neil with you on this Memorial Day. Same story as game number 2 for the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars for that matter. The Oilers now taking a 2-1 series lead with a big 6-1 win on Sunday afternoon.
You know, I literally started counting blue jerseys on the ice because it looked like there were so many more blue jerseys on the ice than there were white jerseys. I mean, Edmonton gets all 5 of their guys back into their zone. Tremendous defensive game. Dallas got shots, but they can't play with them right now. They just can't.
Dallas generated more in this game that I think we had seen in 5 out of the previous 6 periods of this series. But it's also interesting to see how the Edmonton Oilers, over the past 2 springs during the playoffs, have become more and more comfortable playing defensive hockey in the postseason.
Oh, very much so. And you've got Zach Hyman having the most hits of anybody in the playoffs, of anybody that's been in the playoffs. And it's not Tkachuk, it's not Bennett, it's Zach Hyman. What does that tell you? The fact that when Dallas gets it into Edmonton's zone, all 5 of the blue jerseys are down almost below the dots if they have to be. But then they're so quick, they're such good skaters that they can pounce when the puck does get jarred loose for them to get it out of the zone and get on the run. And then Dallas, of course, taking chances, ended up allowing 9 odd man rushes in that game.
4 of them that ended up in their net, by the way.
Yeah, which is never a good thing.
I also find it interesting that we had, going back into the regular season, have been all over the Oilers at various points with their play away from the puck. But this is a part of their game they take pride in now. And even when you look at 2 of the great juggernauts in the history of the NHL, the Oilers run from 1984 through 1990, and then those 2 Pittsburgh teams that won Stanley Cups in 91 and 92. Known more for their offense, but when they had to button it down in the postseason, they could get it done. And we are seeing signatures of that here.
And I think when we didn't see it from the Oilers was the first 2 games against L.A. Yeah. We didn't see them saying, we're in playoff hockey here, and we must play it this way. And then allow our offensive skills to come out once we've taken care of our own end. And sure enough, they figured it out. And ever since then, they have it buttoned down ever since.
Ready to do the recap?
Absolutely.
Here we go. For the Oilers, Mattias Ekholm remained out for the now 3rd game of the series. And the way things are going, not certain if Chris Knobloch exactly has to rush him back. And for Dallas, Roope Hintz was scratched. Took that slash from Darnell Nurse. No supplemental discipline issued to the Oilers defender. He did take the warm-up, did not play. So Oscar Beck moved to center of the top line. And in the early going of this game, Dallas played relatively well. Best stop early on, Colin Blackwell, who had an open side, but Stu Skinner able to get over.
And what happened with Blackwell, if he had been the opposite shot, he could have snapped it quickly, but he had to switch it over and try to get it in that way, taking it from his left to his right and then trying. And by then, Skinner had gotten there.
It underscores how little margin for error that Dallas had in this game, because the 14:02 mark, little flip up in the air, it's a mishandle by Miro Heiskanen at the blue line. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins captures the puck, makes a curl at the half wall, and gets it to Evan Bouchard, 1-0 Oilers. And this comes literally 10 seconds after Brett Kulak is not called for a puck over the glass. So in addition to the Roope Hintz incident, now you get an opportunity for a power play which disappears because the call is not made, and 10 seconds later they're behind.
If anybody saw that hit anything, I wish they'd tell me. I watched it carefully. That didn't hit anything. It should have been a penalty. And then to add insult to injury, later in the game, their captain gets high-sticked and is bleeding on the bench, and nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Peter DeBoer must feel like everything is just going against him with the Hintz thing, and then should have been a power play for them. It ends up in the back of their net. Later on, Ben gets cut above the eye. Anyway, it's been a lot of bad luck, too, for the Dallas Stars.
I can even jump ahead to the last goal of the game, the one that former star John Klingberg scored through his screen. That was somewhat of a soft, unsportsmanlike call on Thomas Harley. I mean, the team is frustrated enough to begin with by the result of the game, by the calls that did not exactly go in their favor. And we're not favoring either team here. It's just, this is the way the game happened to unfold, not only at the end of game 2, but what we saw in game 3 here.
Well, Jamie Benn sort of rubs Hyman into the boards, and then also Harley comes over and rubs him into the boards. And I love what Ray Ferraro said. He said, you get hit harder than that in the supermarket. I mean, it was really a lame call, I thought.
You'd never seen my late grandmother with a cart in a supermarket.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But we digress. So let's go back. It's the 1-0 goal at 14:02. And then 36 seconds later, on a 3-on-1, Connor McDavid converts from Nugent Hopkins. And this is after a bad pinch by Thomas Harley after not getting the puck in deep.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful goal. What happened was McDavid brought the puck down the right side. He fed it to Nugent Hopkins, who one-timed it right back to him, and he one-timed it up into the corner, into a space about as big as 2 pucks, and he got it right in there, and it was a beautiful goal. I mean, an amazing goal, I thought.
Last 5 seconds of the period, Skinner stopped Jason Robertson from in close, and I thought the first period as a whole, you take out this 36-second sliver, the pace, I believe, kind of favored the Stars. It wasn't wide open hockey, but you get undone by about a half minute.
Yeah, and by McDavid. I mean, really, let's face it, McDavid was stupendous in this game. Zach Hyman came back to being who he was a season ago.
Yeah.
I got to say, Nugent Hopkins was great. I mean, the Stars are coming through for the Oilers.
Let's talk about Ryan Nugent Hopkins for a second, because here's a player that has had a really sound NHL career. Not spectacular point-wise, although he does have more points per game on average in the postseason than he has during his regular season career. But he's in that group of 4 first overall picks that the Oilers had in a 6-year span. It was Taylor Hall, Hopkins in 11, the year following, Neil Yakupov, who wound up being a bust in 12, and Connor McDavid, of course, in 15. And then you add to that Leon Draisaitl, who was the 3rd overall pick for the Oilers in 2014. Nugent Hopkins kind of gets lost in the mix here with McDavid and Draisaitl. But he has been a very serviceable player for this Oiler franchise for a long time.
He's been there a long, long time, his whole career. And he comes through in the tough times. I mean, he doesn't look like a big guy. And like you said, this is not a Mario Lemieux first overall pick. This is not a Connor McDavid first overall pick. It's not even a Jack Hughes first overall pick, but a great, steady competitor that's been there a long time and always shows up. And he was great again on Sunday.
3 assists. In the second period, Mikko Rantanen hits a crossbar, and then he's stopped by Stu Skinner, first minute of the period on a power play. Sam Steele also had a good chance right after the power play expired. And then a great skate save, standing up by Skinner on Esa Lindell about 9 minutes into the second. And finally, Dallas breaks through at the 15:35 mark. Liam Bichsel, his shot from straight away just above the high slot area, tipped in by Jason Robertson to make it 2-1. That is the first goal for Dallas on the road in 178 minutes and 57 seconds. That's almost 3 full regulation games.
And you thought when they got off the schneid like that and made it 2-1, what's going to happen now?
Soon after that, Wyatt Johnston, another forward for Dallas that's been struggling, had a great shot. Skinner there again with about 3:45 left. And then glove save in the final 90 seconds, Skinner makes on Matt Duchene. We got to give some props to Skinner here because Dallas did a much better job today getting to the net, creating traffic, playing the kind of game that they wanted to. I actually thought this was an outstanding second period for them.
Well, and Edmonton goaltending was a thing that everybody talks about. Is it going to be good enough? Is it going to be good enough? Will they be able to do it? That's their Achilles heel. Well, I'll tell you something. Stuart Skinner in this game looked as good as anybody playing in the playoffs. Dallas got 34 shots on him. Only one found the back of the net, made 33 saves in a playoff game. This guy was as good as anybody's been in this game. And down the other end, I won't blame Ottinger for why these guys lost. Stopped a lot of good tries, but I think that Stuart Skinner maybe played one of his best playoff games of his career.
I think Dallas would have been really happy to go into the final period down only a goal. Rantanen loses out. Wouldn't call it a 50-50 puck, but he didn't exactly tie up Connor McDavid, and then the puck got shot past him. It goes back to McDavid. He scores with 19 seconds left, and that's just a killer because Dallas has a 21-7 edge in shots in the second, 30-18 for the game, 49-35 in attempts, and the goals for the period are 1-1, and it's still a 2-goal deficit.
And you know what that means when McDavid scores? What have we got to look at on TV?
Oh, more outside watch party shots. I'm ready to puke. I'll leave it there.
On every goal, we got to look at these yin-yangs outside of a building screaming up and down. I don't know about you, Vic, but I actually sit and watch the game to see the hockey game.
It's an ambiance thing. I get it. But the shot is terrible. And we've already made that point. I'm letting it drop here. I've had it talking about nonsense. All right. Not all good news for the Oilers heading into the third period because Connor Brown took a high hit from Alex Petrovich and did not return for the third period. And I'm curious to see if the league is going to look at this one because that shoulder went right into Brown's jaw. That's the principal point of contact here. So if Brown is out.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I saw that it was a hit to the head, and I'm sure he's got a concussion. The only thing is on this is that he went in to make a fair hit. Like he just went in to make a body check.
Yeah.
And it ended up with the difference in height. The shoulder goes into the head. But boy, was it a hard hit. Holy moly. We'll see if the league does anything. I don't know what Petrovic could have done different because he didn't jump up. It's not like he left his feet or he went on his toes or anything like that. It was just a hard body check.
I also have to think, and I know that these things always have to be looked at as their own separate plays. But the fact that Hintz did not play today and Nurse was not suspended, wonder if that will play into whether or not any sort of discipline will be considered for Petrovic here.
You know what? Nobody knows except for the people that make those decisions, whether or not somewhere in their head they're feeling bad about other decisions and they go harder or lighter. You'd like to think they don't. I don't know that they do. It's all up to them.
Here's where it goes completely off the rails for Dallas in the third period. Stu Skinner stops Tyler Seguin, and then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Pass down ice to Zach Hyman, breakaway, high blocker. It's 4-1 at 3:25, and it's pretty much lights out at that point. And then Hyman gets a second in the game on a redirect of an Evander Kane pass with 7:54 left. As we had mentioned earlier, 9 odd-man rushes for the Oilers. So in its way, that offsets a lot of the positives that Dallas had, particularly in that second period.
Absolutely. Dallas did have a lot of positives going there, but then there was the breakdowns going the other way.
As we'd mentioned, John Klingberg on the power play wrapped up the scoring. It ends up 6-1. On 5-on-5, Oilers have outscored Dallas 9-3. So if you're Peter DeBoer at this point, he has felt that his club has put in a lot of good minutes in this series. Now, it certainly hasn't manifested yet. They're trailing 2-1. They had a little bit more time off before game number 4 on Tuesday night because Sunday's game was played in the afternoon. What are the first things that you would want your head coach to concentrate on given the current status for the Stars in this series?
Well, one of the things that I think has to improve with this club is one guy, Mikko Rantanen. He's got to play like he played earlier. I mean, he was a monster early in these playoffs. You couldn't hardly notice him. They're going to go head-to-head with McDavid, and McDavid is that good. Rantanen, he's not going to be able to be equal to McDavid, but he's got to be good. He's got to be noticeable. He can't be giving pucks away, and that's what he was doing today.
And certainly more attempts, I think a better showing, at least offensively, by a lot of the Dallas forwards. Bottom line is that production now has to follow.
Absolutely. They've got to get production out of the people that they've depended on all year long. Now, Robertson got a goal today. Hopefully, that will give him confidence. But Wyatt Johnston's got to get going. I mean, he's a young guy, but he's got to come through for them. Sagan has come through for them. Heiskanen's got to do more because he's a guy they depend on. So we'll see. I think that Dallas will come out with their best effort in Game 4.
They're going to need to. Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Monday's game, the Florida Panthers look to wrap up their third consecutive trip to the Stanley Cup Finals when they host Carolina on TNT at 8 o'clock. At this point, I don't think it matters who starts in goal for Carolina, be it Freddie Anderson, Pyotr Kochetkov, Cam Ward, for that matter. It doesn't matter. The Hurricanes as a group are going to need their best effort, and we hate to do the cliche. It's a game at a time. It's a shift at a time. It's a period at a time. But that's their reality right now.
It is, and they're going to have to play better defensively and not go all out just on the offense and try to get 1,000 shots. We'll see. I don't have much hope for Carolina in this one.
I think you're going to see Florida go for the kill shot early here and break the will of this team because, as we had noted on Sunday's show, for 40 minutes, Carolina hung right in there and played extremely well, and they got ambushed in the third. So 15 consecutive losses for them in conference final games. It's stunning that you could have a streak like that. And Florida obviously is going to say, we do not want to have happen that happened in the final a year ago against Edmonton. We don't want to give them any breath at all. And I expect this series to be over.
Yeah, I agree with you, pal.
Let me throw a couple of things your way on this. Sam Reinhart, still listed as day-to-day. Why would you even play him?
Well, I was going to say I wouldn't play him. I would rest him for the next round.
You've got at least, and let's just say Carolina manages to win. Maybe they win a fifth game, bring it back down to Sunrise. To me, that is the earliest I would even consider bringing Reinhart back, even if he's healthy, because there's no reason to, at this point, get him 100%, not 95%.
No, you're right. And I think that's what Paul Maurice will be doing.
He'll be taking his cues from us, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh.
Just a couple of other notes. Nico Mikkola, who had that awkward fall into the boards during Game 3, appears ready to go. AJ Greer is more of a question, but Mackie Samoskevich would probably be the player that draws into the lineup. And if you're Maurice, what a great situation to have. This plug and play that Reinhart can't go. Boqvist comes in Game 3. He gets 3 points. Greer can't play. We'll just put somebody else in there.
Well, when I visited with Paul Maurice during the regular season at UBS Arena, he told me, he says, take a look at this Samoskevich kid. He says, it's really exciting. This kid works his tail off. Sam Bennett has befriended him. And it's really fun to watch. And I did watch him, and I've remembered him talking about him to me. So Paul really likes this kid.
A little bit of news, and this has nothing to do with front office stuff that apparently has dominated the show the last few days. The USA beat Switzerland 1-0 for its first IIHF World Championship in 92 years. Were you at that last one?
Yeah, I was. In 1933, I was scouting for Detroit.
Were they the Cougars or the Falcons at that point?
I think we had changed over to the Red Wings.
All right. Well, nonetheless, let's fast forward 9 decades plus. Tage Thompson with the winner in overtime at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. The last win, as we mentioned, 1933, but it came on February 26th. It was played in Prague. John Garrison scored at the 6-minute mark of a non-sudden death overtime period to win it. But here's the nugget. Do you know who the winning goalie was for Team USA?
You know, I was there, but I don't remember.
It's a shame. Jerry Cosby. Yes, that Jerry Cosby, who 5 years later founded Jerry Cosby and Sons with his brother John. That was the athletic apparel company, which, of course, had a very famous store in Madison Square Garden.
I got to know the Cosbys. You know, I had to laugh because I saw a picture of the USA team celebrating, and I thought, no wonder why they haven't won since 33. They're wearing Ranger jerseys. They were. That was what their jerseys looked exactly like, Ranger jerseys.
See? And you thought 1940 was bad. All right, compadre, go ahead.
It's time for This Day in Stanley Cup History.
May 26, 1992, Pittsburgh Penguins open up defense of their Stanley Cup final against the Chicago Blackhawks, who entered that series with an 11-game playoff winning streak, which was a record at that time. And they appeared well on their way to making it 12. They had a 4-1 lead in the second period of that game. However, goals by Rick Tocchet and Mario Lemieux sent the game into the second intermission at 4-3. And then the memorable goal by Jaromir Jagr, with less than 5 minutes left in regulation, ties the game. He beats Dirk Graham, Brent Sutter, gets a little bit of a pick from Sean McEachran on Frank Kuchera, and beats Ed Belfour through the pads to tie the game. And then Lemieux scores the winner with 13 seconds left in regulation. And that, for all intents and purposes, put that series to bed, which ended up as a 4-game sweep for the Penguins. But do you know who the goaltender was for the Blackhawks at the end of Game 4 when they finished the sweep?
Darren Pang.
Actually, much taller than Pang on the other side of the spectrum. It was Dominik Hasek.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
What do you remember about that Jagr goal?
I just remember that's when you started to go, oh, my God, is this guy ever good? He can stick handle his way out of a phone booth. I mean, he was tremendous. But this was Mike Keenan's Chicago Blackhawks. There's a lot of stories that went on back then. Doug Wilson, Keenan left Doug Wilson at home in Chicago, and he all of a sudden flew into, I think it was Pittsburgh, to join the team. And Keenan said to him on the ice, "What the hell are you doing here?" I mean, there's so many stories that come out of all this stuff. When the Pittsburgh Penguins beat us in 1992, we were the President's Trophy champions. They won the last 3 games of that series and then went on to win 8 straight more. So that's how they won that Stanley Cup in 1992.
Of course, things got better for you, especially 2 years later.
Yes, they got worse, and then they got better.
They did. Something else that's going to get better, NHL Wraparound. Coming your way on Tuesday, Neil and I will be speaking with former president and general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, and now the new Kings vice president and GM, Ken Holland. So remember, subscribe, like us, and we look forward to speaking with you again on Tuesday. Take care.